Ocarina of Time sold an unprecedented 7.6 million N64 cartridges.
Yeah, that's nice.
Ocarina of Time was the very first game Famitsu ever awarded a perfect score.
They did the same for Skyward Sword, so it doesn't exactly amount to much.
Guinness World Records and Metacritic agree that Ocarina of Time is the most critically acclaimed video game of all time.
And both sources are notoriously biased.
Dozens of publications and reviewers agree that Ocarina of Time deserves to be ranked as the greatest video game of all time.
You know, the heat death of the universe hasn't happened yet, so it's a tad soon to be spouting an of all time of anything.
In 1998, the late Pope John Paul II proudly proclaimed from the Vatican that Ocarina of Time was the greatest gift to humanity since the Ten Commandments.
Other games are cool too.
November 21st has been internationally recognized by 98 countries as New Christmas, the day memorializing when our true savior was born.
How did we get here?
All 32 megabytes of Ocarina of Time have been distributed throughout the cosmos via intergalactic space probes, spreading the seeds of humanity's greatest gift to an untold number of entire galaxies, solidifying Ocarina of Time as the greatest video game in the universe.
Yeah, I guess it's alright. I vividly recall the media spectacle of this game coming out, since games never got that level of attention before, and this was on top of the advent of the Pokemon tidal wave that swept the nation. Willst thou soar, or willst thou suck? Nintendo actually aired this on TV. I was 6 and this was embarrassing. Not only was a video game being shown on television, it was 3D. It had action, it had drama, it had weird title cuts and Shakespearean prose with questionable delivery. Willst thou get the girl, or play like one? Ugh. But the game itself was incredible for the time. It leapt to 3D graphically and mechanically leaps and bounds more gracefully than almost any other series had, achieving overwhelming praise for decades. Metal Gear Solid came out this same year. Why do you have such a problem with this game? I don't! It's everybody else who seems to have this unholy obsession with what's effectively just Link to the Past in 3D. You take that back. You're right, Link to the Past is a lot better than that. 3D was a huge deal at the time, and it's fine! Just don't soak your tampon screaming about it. Just imagine early 3D game development where nobody understood how to build around, much less design a comfortable way to play their games. For the Zelda team, the question immediately became, how do you make Link to the Past work in 3D? Just imagine what almost was. You're running through a tunnel and your camera misbehaves, clipping through the walls. You get ambushed by bats and slowly get smacked around to death because you couldn't aim with your slingshot. Little things that we take for granted are instantly alleviated by the brilliant solution to simplifying this 3D transition, Z-targeting. Do I get to play this time? Knock yourself out. Nice! Though I'm missing the rumble pack, so I guess the Stone of Agony's not gonna work. With Z-targeting, you don't have to try and free-aim those slingshot pellets or aimlessly run around enemies and try to attack and dodge them. The camera, as well as Link's aim, will lock on to whatever target you're facing upon pressing Z. This idea was so revolutionary, nearly all 3D action games would replicate it even to this day. Play Ocarina of Time without Z-targeting and you will instantly appreciate how much of a difference this makes. This game would probably be ridiculed as unplayable jank were it not for this one feature. We were also first introduced to the new context-sensitive A button, reacting differently based on where you are and what you're doing, allowing you to do things like pull and push a block, then climb on top of it, all with the same button. Sure, that's loads better than a Dragon Quest submenu popping up for everything, but boy does this game twist my Deku nuts when the stupid A button doesn't change fast enough, and I find myself impatiently doing all the wrong stuff on accident, forced now to undo the mistake and wait even longer for the dumb button to realize what I wanted it to do the first time! Anyway, mechanically, the game is virtually identical to the Link to the Past formula. Collect a green, red, and blue thing before gaining access to the alternate version of the world map and collecting the other half-dozen things to beat the big bad, all the while fighting and puzzle-solving your way through elaborate dungeons. Most of the cool gear you find in dungeons originates directly from Link to the Past as well, like the hammer, hookshot, and yes, even the ocarina itself. This is done to ensure that the 3D transition can be as seamless as possible, while also ironing out how everything is going to function from here on. Also, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Link to the Past is a masterpiece. No shame in copying the formula verbatim while experimenting with 3D. They also added a couple stealth segments for some reason. But for the most part, it's mechanically really solid. There's just a few minor complaints I have with the gameplay. Here we go. So jumping out of the Dark World in Link to the Past was easy peasy, right? There were portals all over the place, and once you were in, the magic mirror could instantly spit you right back. Not in Ocarina of Time. We'll get more into it in the story segment, but instead you'll be traveling through time 7 years. It's another creative way to use the same map and assets to increase the game's length, just like in the Dark World. However, the only way to go to and from time periods is by running all the way back to the Temple of Time and interacting with the Master Sword. From about halfway and on, you will get the ability to fast travel for some locations, but it never stops feeling arduous, especially when some dungeons and side quests require both young and adult Link to contribute. You fast travel and interact with the world in new ways by playing music with your Ocarina, which is a really cool implementation over the simple flute that just summoned a fast-traveling duck from Link to the Past, as hilarious as that was. I actually really love this too. You'll pull out the Ocarina and can freestyle play music where A and the C buttons become different notes, and by playing one of your learned songs correctly, you can do all sorts of neat stuff like prove your connection to the royal family, change day into night, or even stun those freaking nightmare fuel redeads. The day-night cycle is kind of important as well, as it will affect whether townsfolk are awake and going about their business, or asleep or closing up shop. Unfortunately, in these smaller zones with people, time doesn't pass like it does out in Hyrule Field. Yeah, Majora's Mask is gonna go hog wild implementing that feature, but instead we gotta accept that the sun's gonna fly across the sky in Hyrule Field and suddenly freeze in Castle Town. And it certainly will get your attention, as you will have to make your first long run across the field to the castle, likely just missing the drawbridge as night falls. I understand why they did it this way and appreciate the immersion it adds to the world, as the NPCs feel more like real people and less like Walmart greeters, who aren't real, and you can't convince me otherwise. Instead, most players mash A to constantly roll, as it's a little faster than running. I found that Z targeting 90 degrees from where you want to go and strafe jumping, you'll reach your destination even faster. Unless, of course, you found the horse Epona. After learning Epona's song in the past and winning a particularly rigged couple of horse races in the future, you'll rescue Epona, the ornery mare that allows you to ride clear across Hyrule Field in no time. Which is finally when Hyrule Field stops feeling so barren. It is so big and so empty. It's mind-numbing in places. You can even pull out your bow and fire arrows while galloping full sprint. However, it's locked to first person. Good luck hitting 1,500 points worth of targets in Gerudo Valley for the biggest quiver, and all 10 big Poes twice before they flee so you can earn your final bottle with jerky N64 controls on horseback. I'm not miffed this took me several hours to accomplish. What are you implying? Riding horseback is cool and a huge bonus addition to the series. The game can't get everything right on its first try, but for a first attempt, Ocarina of Time does a fabulous job at overcoming this most challenging hurdle in gaming history, the leap to 3D. Did it though? You know how long it takes to open a chest in Link to the Past? Boom! It's open! You immediately see what you got and you move on. In Ocarina, Link has to slowly crack it open, obstruct the camera view as he climbs in, conceal it in his arms, and slowly turn around and finally raise it into the air. What's your point? You'll be 7 years older for real when you're done waiting for every Skulltula to turn around and waiting for the sun to go down and waiting for the Master Sword animation to finish so you can just move on with your game. Okay, to be fair, almost every single enemy in the game is beaten by targeting them, holding up your shield, waiting for them to put down their guard, and striking. Rinse and repeat until dead. Everything. It's fun, but repetitive. Ocarina of Time, ironically, does not respect yours. It's still aged considerably better than the vast majority of its competition. But that doesn't even fix how frustrating some parts are. The 10-item-long Big Oron Sword trading sequence is obscure and challenging. The Ice Cave is a living demonstration of how Z-targeting can't save you from unfair and unfun cheap shots. And the Water Temple is famously confusing because of the three-dimensionality of the dungeon. For the full experience, I also completed the 3DS version, and it fixed the Water Temple in a big way by color-coding the doorways leading to where you can change the water level. For every great inclusion I love, there's another I loathe. There's Volvagia, but there's also Bongo Bongo. And you've got to slog through Jabu Jabu's belly to enjoy the Forest Temple. And if you're not immediately on top of your next task, you will be hounded by Navi the Fairy even if you're at at the location already, doing exactly what she is nagging you to do! You know, it's weird, they fleshed out the world so much that you'd want to spend time relaxing in it, fishing, or playing some mini-games like bomb chew bowling. However, Navi incessantly demands you get a move on. Look, I've played this game since I was 6. I know it inside and out. Even when I make a beeline straight for my objective, Navi still isn't satisfied enough to— For crying out loud, didn't even let me finish my sentence!
Listen!
That's it! You listen!
Watch out!
Anyway, the game is really well designed and I love it. Me too! You know what's cooler than numbered generic dungeons? Going inside a massive sentient tree, an active volcano, the bottom of a haunted well, inside the belly of a fish god. The world design is equally ambitious as it is insane. Link's redesign is also probably my favorite in the series. They even designed unique tools and weapons for both young and adult Link to help individualize both. To visualize the complicated targeting system, Navi will fly around your target and change colors based on the situation. It's so clever, you probably didn't even notice it was happening. Then there's the 3DS remake, which is almost entirely a graphical enhancement. But whose idea was it to make the cover diarrhea brown with nothing but the logo slapped in the middle? These N64 graphics are so nice, Game Freak is only just now catching up to it. We'll only stop making fun of them when it stops being correct. In the peaceful kingdom of Hyrule, a little elf boy from a fairy village is sent off on a quest to deliver a shiny green rock to Princess Zelda by the Great Deku Tree, an enormous mustachioed talking tree who's apparently hollow and has a giant eyeball spider abomination inside of him. Link discovers he's unlike the other Kokiri children living in the forest, who are all accompanied by fairies and stay as children forever. The Great Deku Tree reveals that Link is actually a Hylian, whose mother fled an attack on her village and eventually died in the forest, leaving Link under the talking tree's care. So Deku Dude finally ends Link's ridicule by giving him a fairy to accompany him on this journey leaving the forest, anticipating some sort of foreboding evil, though that may have just been indigestion from the truck-sized arachnoid in his gut, but whatever. So Link sneaks into Hyrule Castle to meet Princess Zelda, who warns him an evil Gerudo man from the desert troop of thieves Ganondorf is schmoozing up her father, who must be too smitten with his handsome demeanor to realize that this is an obvious trap. So she sends Link to gather the other two spiritual stones and return them to the Temple of Time. After blowing up a frog dinosaur and performing an endoscopy on a whale, Link returns to the castle where Ganondorf chases the fleeing Zelda on horseback. She tosses Link the Ocarina of Time and hopes that there still might be a chance that he could stop the uprising. But things don't go exactly as planned. Once placing the spiritual stones and entering the hidden chamber in the Temple of Time, Link discovers and draws the Master Sword, where he is suddenly flung 7 years in the future. So apparently the sword decided Link wasn't ready to be the hero of time yet, so it transported him into a void realm and knocked him into a coma until it thought he was ready. And in all that time, Ganondorf absolutely destroyed the castle and its surrounding town, rebuilding it all his own. Now it's all black and pointy, so you know he's serious. Link then has to travel across the future-oppressed land of Hyrule, searching for 6 sages to aid him in his battle with Ganondorf. But weirdly enough, even though we're told that Ganon's smothering evil force corrupted the land, Hyrule Field is ironically safer in the future. There used to be skeletal wolves and helicopter pineapple things made of knives. Now there's just some ghosts that flee from you only on horseback, sometimes. Nothing else. But Castletown is abandoned, instead overrun with re-deads, strongly implied to be the zombified remains of the innocent townsfolk. So Link gathers the troops from the forest, fire, water, shadow, and spirit temple, who each give him a shiny pachinko token thing that does absolutely nothing other than give Link an excuse to hold something over his head, because holding the actual sages up like items would have been a little too on the nose. So you storm Ganon's castle with the help of the sages, making a rainbow bridge because Mario Kart is cool, and deactivating the weird ghosty lock things restricting each of the sages' abilities, or something like that, in order to open the way to the long winding staircase up to Ganondorf, who's just chilling, playing on his organ, hoping you'd enter at that very moment for dramatic effect. So Navi, of all times, gets too spooked out of the guy and won't help you, as you have to dead man's volley magical balls back and forth to render the flying sorcerer vulnerable. She does that because the developers knew targeting would make this fight as easy as playing ping pong against a wall. Anyway, you defeat the Dark Magic Man and rescue Zelda, who got captured, by the way. Probably should have mentioned that sooner. Zelda actually survived these 7 years by cross-dressing as a Sheikah man, stupidly named Sheik, because she was probably put on the spot at one point for her name and had a brain fart. Sheik had been helping you out all along the Sage Hunt, teaching Link new teleporting songs and offering advice. It wasn't until acquiring all of them that she, or rather he, felt safe enough to reveal his, or rather her, identity as the 7th Sage, Princess Zelda. Suck it, transphobes, Zelda had a penis for 7 years. Well, I mean, she technically did use magic to change her gender. Magical penis, even better. Now I've got that Freudian magical penis envy. Maybe suck it was a poor choice of words. Maybe endure it. No, that's worse. So the two of you barely escaped the collapsing tower Metroid style when out of the rubble, Ganondorf's corpse levitates in the air and swells with so much hatred-fueled power, he transforms before your eyes into a bipedal piggy man, dual-wielding swords each the size of a school bus. He immediately swats away the Master Sword and traps you in with him inside of a ring of fire. Deal with it. That's what I should have said. Too late. So Link clenches his heroic butt cheeks and takes on one of the hardest fights in the series to date. Unless he nabbed the big Oron sword beforehand, then he just slaughters the big guy, Master Sword or no. With censored green blood to secure that E rating, even though you brutally impale him through the forehead. Yeah, the ESRB really saw Dead Hand and thought what was tipping things over the edge was Ganon's inside juices being the wrong color. Well, with Ganon defeated, Zelda sends Link back in time so he can relive his missing 7 years. Where Navi immediately gives Link the deuces and pisses off. This clearly triggered the guy's Stockholm Syndrome, considering Majora's Mask only happens because he spends the rest of his life looking for her. Anyway, the game concludes with an amazing cliffhanger, where Link returns to the young Princess Zelda in hopes of preemptively banishing Ganondorf in the past, creating 2 canonical split endings, one for the past and one for the future. But Nintendo ruined that fan theory potential like a cringy 50-year-old chaperone jumping in for the electric slide at a high school prom by publishing their own nonsensical timeline, undermining and misunderstanding their own content. But we already covered that abomination in an episode all of its own, shameless plug. Yeah, I'm so cool, I'm just like you guys! Hey, look, I can do it too! I really hope you get his analogy here because this is just embarrassing. That's the point! Now watch me do some radical moves. I absolutely love the Link to the Past soundtrack, and it even sounds great on the N64. There are a lot of new tracks, and they are all great as well. This is still the legendary Koji Kondo after all. Though she's annoying as a sea urchin in my anus, Navi actually speaks with English voices to get your attention, and that's pretty cool on a system this old. The fully voiced Metal Gear Solid did come out this same year though, so... Oh, so now it's okay to admit that other games exist? Okay, to be fair, the N64 is no PlayStation, and all characters still emote with audible grunts and sighs. I guess you can't freestyle jam on a chunky flute in Metal Gear, so that's gotta count for something. Look, I really like this game. I do. All I'm trying to say is it's not perfect. Ocarina even has some of that Link to the Past exploration, where bonus and even mandatory items are found in peculiar, seemingly optional ways. And that is how you make a real Zelda game. Tears. I've lost count of how many times I've played this through the years, starting and stopping, even hacking and modding it for fun, but it wasn't until last month that I finally 100%ed the entire game from start to finish. However, I drew the line at hunting down more than the required 50 golden Skulltulas. That guy can rot for all eternity as a cursed spider hybrid for all I care. My daughter begs for me to read her Link stories every night, so I eventually showed her there's actually a game about it. We slowly played the entirety of Ocarina of Time together, and she loved every minute of it, even getting adorably invested in Link's boss fights and horse races. Malon's stupid race challenge only serves to spotlight how finicky Epona's fence jumping is. Bum. I love this game. The positive gamer in me outweighs the fond memories of Ocarina of Time over the janky bits that aged like a decomposing buffalo, with a 7 out of 10. That's a good score. That means I liked it more than most and came out of it happy with the overall experience. That's how math works. This game is good, but it is far from perfect. The critical gamer in me recognizes the incredible strides forward the entire medium made with the release of Ocarina of Time, awarding it with the sacred 10 out of 10. As an N64 reimagining of Link to the Past, this game is nothing short of phenomenal. So what did you think? Let us know how your positive and critical sides rate Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Did we mention it's a Legend of Zelda game? In the comments below. It's definitely an important landmark in gaming history, but so is Half-Life, Donkey Kong, heck, even Minecraft. But if you're fooling yourself into thinking that this is the greatest video game ever made, Well, it's obvious you haven't played very much. 'Cause you're just playing with yourself. Yes, Clover and I actually played the entirety of Ocarina of Time because she asked me to, and we 100%ed it on the very day of its 25th anniversary, which was kind of ironic. I didn't plan for that at all, so that's kind of fun. Either way, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more, and use the links in the description to nominate your own episode. And thank you to all of our Patreon members, Arrow, Aspen, Crystal, Sid, Genio, Laura, and Squad Fam. Boop.